rate-making process works with insurance companies.
Nobody knows.
It's a mystery. It's
Wizard of
complete
Oz. Wizard of
That's
Oz.
And that's a question that we get time and time and time again. People want to come in after they've had an accident. It has nothing to do with, they weren't at fault. But, the process, the system that we have in Florida is a no-fault system. And so your medical bills are paid by your own auto insurance, whether you caused the accident or not. If someone else crashes into you, your medical bills are paid, at least in part, by your own insurance company before the other person's insurance company pays $1. So that always leads to the question, well, is this going to affect my rates because I'm making a claim against my own insurance company? And, I have to give them my standard speech. Well, the short answer is I don't know, but I can give you what an insurance agent friend of mine gave me as kind of the rule of thumb, which isn't going to be perfect, but it's close enough. It says if you have one accident within a 3-year period, whether it's your fault or not, probably not going to do anything to your rates. If you have more than one, whether it's your fault or not, then it probably is in that same 3-year period. And that kind of got me thinking, and I was doing some research last night, and I came across this article. It was on CNN, and it was interesting that there was this journalist that decided they wanted to find out what types of things drive rates. And now the major insurers all have the online system where you can plug in certain information, it'll spit you out a quote.
Right.
So they took 5 major insurers: Geico, State Farm, Allstate, Farmers, and Progressive. And they plugged in the rates, and they made up 2 imaginary people and kind of tweaked the data that they plugged in for these 2 imaginary people, and they did it for various metropolitan areas throughout the country.
Okay.
And what they found was your driving history had less to do with your rates than your socioeconomic background. And so
Really?
the people that they created, one was a secretary who had a perfectly clean driving history, single mother. The important thing was the earnings and the job description. And then the other one was an executive who had had an accident or 2 within the driving history that was reported on these online forms. And with the exception of State Farm, miraculously, because I certainly have had many dealings with State Farm, not many of them pleasant.
Yeah.
But with the other 4 major insurers, there was a dramatic increase or dramatically higher premiums for the secretary with the clean driving record versus the executive with accidents in her history.
That's,
and in some cases,
I would have thought it was just the opposite.
right?
Yeah.
Those are strange
And
statistics.
so the insurance industry appears, I mean, this is anecdotal evidence, obviously, but it appears that they believe that the higher earnings or the higher the position that you have as far as your job either leads to safer driving habits or less of a risk in some manner. Maybe you're less likely to make a claim because you don't need to as much. I don't know what the rationale might be, but it's interesting that it was that consistent, again, with the exception of State Farm, all 4, and it didn't matter where you were. And they tried in cities, putting in different locations throughout the country, and in every one of them, except for State Farm, the other 4 insurers, it was higher for the secretary every time. And in some cases, dramatically so. They picked out one it was for Allstate in Baltimore, and the secretary, her premium annually was $3,292 versus $1,248 for the executive.
Well, see, because the secretary had a Baltimore Ravens bumper sticker,
Right.
and everybody was aiming for her car.
She's not driving around Massachusetts now.
Hey, I haven't said anything about Florida State of that kind of nature. And you
Well,
just sing my Patriots like that.
I figured that they would just try to run into her with driving around with the Ravens.
It was strange when my wife and I moved down here back in the mid-90s, having lived in the Atlanta, Georgia area, big traffic
Sure.
there.
Oh, yeah.
But my insurance rate almost doubled when I moved to Charlotte County.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that may have something to do with the type of drivers that we have here. I mean, and you also got to remember that
I know where you're going with that.
Florida is ground zero as far as sprawl is concerned, and so you can't do anything without getting your car and driving.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas, when you get into larger cities, even though traffic is horrendous, a lot of people take public transportation,
Exactly.
ride
Well,
bikes. They're not-
my insurance did go down when I went from Englewood to Arcadia.
Well, that makes sense.
It does, and I was surprised at that
You
it
gotta
did
try
make
hard
sense.
to get into an accident in Arcadia.
Yeah. Not necessarily, no, never mind. I got the busiest section of the county. Hey, we got sports coming up next, we'll be back with Jay Gordon and your questions. If you got a question for Jay,